Actually, my career started some 5, 6 nautic miles north from here at the shipyard Arendalsvarvet. And they closed a couple of years later, and I chose another career. Now I'm back in business, and I'm looking back 40 years. It hasn't happened so very much in the shipping industry when it comes to design, etc., as I see it. Excuse me if I'm offending someone. But now there is a big change going on, and this is what I'm going to talk about. Let me first take a case that we met. It was a container ship having a lot of auxiliary engines, and each of them made 1,600 kilowatts. That's in total 6,400 kilowatts. And all that was needed was actually 1,000 kilowatts. So why use so much power in the boat when you only need 1,000 kilowatts? Well, there is a reason. You have bow thrusters. And when you start the boat thrusters, you need some 2,000-3,000 kilowatts. But it's for a very short while. It's a bzzz, and then it's over. But you need to start all the engines, and as you're approaching harbor, you need also, for redundancy reason, to have the machines running. Now, anyway, it's 3,000 if you use the bow thrusters, and then another 1,000, that's 4,000. Why have so much kilowatt hours? Oh, sorry, kilowatt. I don't know. It seems to be kind of tradition to always be sure of having enough power to do what you want to do. It's a pity. Maybe you couldn't store the energy. If you can store the energy, you can use it when you need it. Now, I guess 10 years ago, you didn't think about storing energy in big passenger ships or container ships. However, there's been an enormous development with batteries. You can see it in the automotive industry, but also in the marine industry. I would say 5 years ago, you didn't think about batteries. But now we have even big ferries like the one in Helsingborg, the HH ferries, very big, and for propulsion. Now, this storage can also be used for other purposes, like storing energy for your thrusters. Now, there's a shift in paradigm, I would say, from thinking in power. What I mean by that is having enough power to do everything. Now, if you think energy, if you have enough energy on board, you can do what you need to do. For example, use the thrusters. Now, what can we use if we have a battery pack on board? What can we use it for? First, as we talked about, is what I call peak shaving. You start the bow thrusters and you take the energy from the batteries and not from the auxiliary engines. Second, when you enter a port, you must be sure of having redundancy. Now, a battery pack can also deliver power, so you don't need to have all the machines running. And thirdly, when you're running the boat and you have exactly the power you need from your auxiliary engines, that means that maybe they are only running 50% of the power, or 25% of the power, or 60% of the power, but they are designed for working 100%. Now, you could use the battery pack, charge it when you have excess capacity, and use the batteries when you lack capacity. Doing so, you can use the engines at 100% load all the time. Now, what does this mean in practice? First, if the engines go 50%, you use much more fuel than if you have it on the optimum 100% or 95%. For example, a 1600 kilowatt engine has some 190, 195 grams of fuel per kilowatt hour. But if you go down to half the load, the consumption increases by some 20%. So not using the engine 100% means more fuel consumption. And I would say a normal consumption is 20% higher if you have only 50% of the load. Second, emission. If you use 20% more fuel, you will emit 20% more carbon dioxide. If you have the engine going only 50%, you will emit much more NOx and particles. Now, thirdly, if you run the engines on an average of 50%, you need to run them twice as many hours as if you had 100%. That means more maintenance costs, and it means more wearing of the engines, and it means more use of lubrication oil. So there is an economy here, not only environmental reason, it's economy. Economy for fuel consumption, which is some 20% less if you use the storage. And it's also maintenance cost will go down with some 40–50%. I have cases for that. Now, I know there is a lot of regulations, and there will be more, especially in harbors. But I would say the main reason to start with is economy. And the question is it profitable to do this energy storing? Batteries are quite expensive, and if you do an installation of a storage system, what is the payoff? And I would say in a new build, you could use only 2 engines, auxiliary engines, and a battery pack. And that amounts in investment about the same as 4 engines. So if it's a new build, you get an instant payback. If you do a retrofit, maybe you keep the engines you don't need, but it's a bigger cost for installation, and those cases I've seen is 3, 4, maybe 5 years payoff to do this installation. So, going back to the title of this little speech, I call it peak shaving, but it's also a new paradigm. And the big thing is to think in terms of power, not power, but energy. Think energy, think kilowatt hours, think storage of energy, and you will reduce the power of the auxiliary engines considerably. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hans, for a very interesting presentation. I wonder a little bit, you said in 5 years it has happened a lot, but where do you think we are in 10 years from now or 15 years from now?
I think the performance of batteries will improve. They are improving quite fast, and when that's in terms of lifetime, and lifetime is about how many cycles, charging cycles, can they take. And there is, of course, an economical part of it if you extend the lifetime. Second is the power you can charge them with or discharge them. That will also increase, so you can charge faster or discharge faster. And then we have the cost of batteries, which is changing 10-15% less per year. And that is with existing technologies. We have batteries like lithium titanate oxide, lithium manganese, cobalt, and everything. But we don't know what will be the next technology. Might appear next year, I don't know. So we will have disruptive changes in the battery technology, I'm sure.
Have you seen a growing interest in the batteries over the years?
Yes, it's a growing interest in the marine industry. However, the demand is less, I would say, so far. But it will come. I think it will be a big boost within very few years.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And if you want to know more about this interesting subject, where can we find you?
You could find us and our colleagues in Kallenberg in C64. Much welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for these 2 days here at the Garden Stage. And I hope you had great discussions and meetings. Thank you.